Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Animation Oatmeal. Today we're going to be looking at your Epic Lyric Smackdown exercises. Um, Hope you're still with us because I understand how demanding a project like this can be. There is a lot to work with in here, even if you're just doing the easy version of this. I've seen a lot of you have gone for the easy version, and that's really all Noel's asking for. That's all we're asking for. Um, and I think a big part of why they set it up like that was because next week is catch up week. So after the couple assignments that the lesson, the exercise that we have this week, um, next week we're not going to have any of that. It's going to be an opportunity for all of you to catch up. Maybe go back on something that you haven't had the chance to quite finish up yet. Maybe you do want to take this lyric video. Maybe you do want to take this further. Maybe there was something that I suggested to you in one of the other projects that you were like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Catch up week is a really great opportunity to go back on some stuff that maybe didn't quite make some sense at the time that you were working through them, but you've learned a lot already in between week one and now. And hopefully you see a lot of room to apply some of that knowledge to stuff that you've already worked on and like really, really make it work. But for this one in particular, like we've got the easy version here, and I know how time consuming it is. But I think for this one, this upcoming week is a really good opportunity to kind of take some of the direction and feedback that's being given to you and take that downtime to really apply it. So we're going to jump into some of your submissions for this one today. First thing I want to say is that, again, we've revamped the course for this, and the old song that we used for this project, oof, I'm so glad it's gone. It was like that, like old school hippity hippity kind of rap, and it was goofy. And I love the fact that we're going with something that's not only modern but that actually goes kind of hard. These tracks are dope, and I think Joey did an outstanding job of putting these together for us. So all that said, let's jump in and see a little bit of what we're working with. This first one here is going to come from Justin. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, I got a magic track. Keyframes are on the attack. You need a pre-cop to handle all of the layers I stack.
Yeah, great stuff here. Y'all made some really, really dope animations to go with this. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of run through this a few times and just kind of like pick out some stuff to mention.
Yeah.
Like just right out the gate, I think this works really well. I like that we've got this guy right here, just starting us off, just letting us know something's coming from here. And yeah, and then we time it up with the click and the yeah. I think the action on yeah works really nicely there. The motion blur here is looking pretty good too. And I like that you've got the secondary animation kind of continuing to work. Like the way the ball, or what we'll call it, a ball, the way it slides down and then drops off at the same time that, like, we got this one swiping through to emphasize track. And that's something I want to say, is that especially with your secondary animations and even with the animations directly on the text, like, you're really looking to emphasize, especially on, like, I got a Met you can track, like the emphasis in the lyric, or in the song itself, it's on the word track. So to find a way to give that like a little bit more punch than the other words in the shot here, that's going to be really helpful. But what I really like here is that there's a good variety of animation going on, and that's something else I'd like to point out, just for anybody who is maybe still working on this or is maybe going to go back to it. It gets a little stale when, it's just like, oh, this thing's scaling up from center, and then that one's scaling up from center, and then this one's, yeah, like we've got, yeah, scaling up from center, but then Ive comes in from the side, and in the process, it almost kind of like reveals got. A kind of spins in, Matt comes in from the side, track comes at you. Like there's a variety here that kind of keeps things interesting as we go along. Now, I did notice that Justin used this really funky effect on key here. I think it looks really cool. I just don't think that it matches the rest of this. You know what I mean? Like, not only like the fact that it's like green, but like everything else is so, I don't know, just so vectorized and so just clean. I think it just doesn't quite match. But I like I like that you're getting creative with that and trying something new. And I don't think it really like distracts from this in any way. Um, but I think that these coming down, I think that looks pretty cool. And again, like I said, like a nice variety here. Like we got this funky thing going on with key. Frames kind of comes in from each side. R rotates in, and you got this. There's a clear progression to the words coming on screen.
Track. Keep Franco on the attack.
And I'm seeing, this circle right here. I think it's doing a nice job of working along with this action here. That's good stuff. There's a lot happening in this, and I think it looks great. I really do. Because it's almost like each action is triggering something else. God, a lot comes in there at once. I can't tell if it's distracting how much is happening. Like, I do really like this triangle and the way it's kind of like hurling two into the frame. I think that's really neat. It's almost like it's that we're seeing A and pre-comp and this yellow box and these two elements as well as this element. Like, those are all kind of happening at once. But then again, like those happen, two gets tossed out while handle's happening and this ball is popping down. I can't tell if it's distracting. Maybe some of the other viewers might be able to provide some input there. Maybe you feel a way about it. But I think the fact that like you've got so much happening the whole time provides enough of a consistency there for it to work. And I do kind of like this thing where, these circles are kind of meandering about this. Like, this yellow one coming down, bouncing off, dropping down like a set of stairs with this. I think that looks really cool. I am I don't feel great about these two elements just kind of existing like that. I think there's just room there to kind of, I don't know, maybe find other ways to bring them on as the rest of this happens. But I am just noticing this for the first time. What you did with the word layers here and stretching that out. That looks crazy. That's really cool. I didn't pick up on that in real time. And then the last thing I want to say is that I love this action here that clears everything out.
Handle. All of the layers are stacked.
That's timed so well to the music.
All of the layers are stacked.
So, we got the little sheet bar there. and then it's rising up as we've got that little bit that's still fading out, and there's that beat that happens right there. I don't know if you want to call it a beat, but like there is a change that happens in the audio, and it's at that exact moment that it stops growing upward from the top and starts shrinking upward from the bottom, and it takes us out. Justin, I think you did a great job with this. Again, I would love to see you take this further with next week's downtime. All right. Next up, I got Carly. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, I got a magic track. Keyframes are on the attack. You need a freak off the handle. All of the layers are stacked.
All right, very cool.
Yeah.
That looks awesome. Like this comes on, but then with the chime, there's some overshoot to it. There's some bounce.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm just.
Yeah, I got a
that's
magic
timed
track.
so well. So well. Really nice job with just that initial action. Your overshoots are looking really nice here. And I hope that's something that people picked up on in the lesson video, is that as Noel just kind of like blazed through this and he was just doing action after action after action, I hope you picked up on the fact that I don't think he used more than 3 keyframes for any single element. It was, here's where this action's going to start, here's where it's going to end, here's where it's going to start, here's where it's going to end, but also here's where I'm just going to add in just a little bit of overshoot. That's all any of his stuff took. And I mean, if you want to, if you're not quite ready to start playing around with overshoot, like even if it's just here's where it starts and here's where it ends, like make sure you're not doing too much, and definitely make sure you're not using too many keyframes for an action that doesn't need it. Because that's usually where things start to get wonky and don't look smooth, is when there's just too many keyframes involved in what could just be like an A to B kind of thing, or in this case, as he put down for you, like an A to B to C kind of thing. I guess it's maybe an A to C to B, but that's kind of beside the point. But again, I'm seeing that Carly did a great job of applying that kind of simplicity here. Like I'm seeing stuff like it's got its beginning, it's got its overshoot, and it's got its end. Like even just that little extra growth on track before it settles into place.
Yeah, I got a magic track. Keyframes are on the attack.
Yeah, first thing I want to say is, I was talking about emphasizing the, like the key words in some of these, and I think what you have with attack here looks awesome. I do think that could use a little bit of that overshoot though. I'm just going slow. I just want to see how things like really progress. And like this is great. The secondary animation where it's absolutely secondary, and it's also maybe even tertiary, but these 2 purple pieces just kind of floating into the middle, this circle making its way across. They're absolutely not distracting from any of this, but they're keeping the action moving. And again, a good variety of action on each one of these words. Really nicely done with that. All right, so this was something that I noticed when I was originally looking at this work. Handle is a little bit weird. And what I find a little bit weird about it is that notice how as it's coming on, it's already moving Sorry, I wish I could do this more precisely. It's already moving upward a little bit, but then it's moving upward, but then it does this little wave like downward. I'm thinking one of two things where either instead of the upward motion at the beginning, it's just a downward motion, or it just starts with this kind of wave that's going on. I don't think it needs both. And I think that's an example of like maybe having too many keyframes in play when like they're just not quite needed. But that's just a very like minor thing that can be cleaned up. And yeah, I just kind of find it a little hard to read when like something's moving up, but then like it's also like moving downward at the same time.
On the attack.
Oh, where's my audio?
You need a freak off the handle. All of the layers are stacked.
I like the way layers comes in. I think that looks really cool. I do think you could benefit from masking it though. Masking it so that we're not, I mean, as faint as it is, like still seeing the white text on the off-white background, I think it would be beneficial to mask this layer to match this bar so that we're only seeing the text within that bar. This all looks really good. Again, we've got some of these like drifter elements, but then like we've also got the eye coming in with its background and then this line drawing on. I think stack looks really cool coming up like that. The little bit of overshoot, this bar underneath it kind of working the same. I like the design of these. I like the way you did that. I do just think that this could use one like final action. You know, the way that Justin, the previous one, the way he, used this bar to fade everything out. I think it's just missing that one piece to bring everything to a close. But Carly, I think you did a great job. And once again, I hope that you're able to use some of next week's time to, maybe tinker with some of this stuff and maybe, try a longer version of it. But, as is, I think you did great work. All right, finally, I got Ian or Ian. I'm not sure. And either. I got you, bro. All right, let's see.
Yeah, I got a man you can track. Keyframes are on the attack. You need a freak off the handle. All of the layers are stacked.
Okay. This is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that initial, all of this stuff falling into place. The rotation looks awesome. The motion blur looks great, but you definitely have a good handle on your anchor points. And I mean, it's clear the way that all of these things fall. And God, the way that this hits the ground, or whatever ground it has, and then that triggers this to pop out, the lyric to hit, and it just absolutely crushes the audio.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I got a man you can track.
There's that emphasis on track, that blink. I mentioned it to another student when I was going through their submission that this piece right here, like in the beginning, there's those quick little beats. And I think that, if you've got this thing right here, maybe that's hanging out as your very first element that's on screen. If you gave it like some of this effect, and timed it like just well enough with the track, I think it could do a really, really great job of kind of like hitting those really, really quick drum beats. But nice job with this first frame. I think you could maybe put a little more action on this thing, like, maybe as track is still doing its thing, maybe this just like shoots us across, and like at the same time that's happening, that's when we cut to this shot. Um, the oh wow, I did not notice this on attack. This is the first time I'm seeing this. That's awesome. And I think part of that is just that, things are things are shaking. There's a lot happening. This action right here might be a little distracting. I think we could probably do without that one. Um, but the one thing I think this could benefit from is like, notice how I'm assuming this is all like one pre-comp that you're putting the scale properties on. I think it would benefit to have some of maybe these elements or something. Maybe they're moving a little bit more individually. And maybe they're reacting a little bit on their own to the way that things are like just shaking and bouncing around. Um, it would just provide a little more separation and individuality, and maybe kind of better reinforce the idea that like these are secondary, like these are here but they're not part of all of this. Just a thought. um okay, I'm seeing more of this kind of like swirly action here. And did I miss that in like another? All right, so there's none of it in there. Yeah, okay. I think you could just clean up the path on this a little bit. It does look a little bit janky, but I mean, I'm only saying this because so much of this is so dope that I think you've got a really good handle on all this stuff that you could take a little bit of that critique. Um, Ooh, interesting use of pre-comp here. Mm. So there's we're seeing these letters kind of come out one by one, but then comp just appears on its own, and then it settles in. I'm not totally sure about that. I think there's probably a cleaner way to handle that. And maybe it's just that things come in like this one at a time kind of deal. I'm not sure. I'd have to really tinker with it, but gotta be honest, I just don't love that concept. I think it's just not quite landing, like just not nearly as well as other stuff here. Like what you've got going on with Handle, the way you've got the offset going on, and they're kind of coming up one by one, but then there's also that additional secondary action on this where each letter grows before it fades out and then comes back. Wow, you did a lot with that word. I didn't even realize it. A lot of this happens so quickly, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that. Like, my God, how am I supposed to do anything when this word is spoken like that, you know?
Freak off the handle. All of the layers are stacked.
Ah, this looks really cool. The kind of like 3D effect that you put in there, and like I mean, maybe it's just an illusion, but like I'm seeing all of the school of motion colors going on here. Like I'm kind of getting like just the school of motion vibe just from the way this plays out. But that's a really cool effect, and I like the way it's kind of like in and out.
All of the layers are stacked.
But yeah, this is really, really great stuff, start to finish. I think you've got some really creative stuff going on here, and I think you absolutely did a great job of handling just the amount of different assets and elements and layers that are in this. So again, really excellent work with this. But hey, that's gonna do it for this one. Um, I've talked for quite a bit now. I think you might be sick of this episode. So I'm gonna move on to the next one, and I'll see you over there in a minute.